of this meetup was to just get together and understand and figure out what we all have been doing in this last 5-10 years and how things have been. See, what the idea of this entire conversation is primarily to have stories coming out of from the old heads who have been in the CSR domain for quite some time. Starting from the making of the rules when they're being made in 2009, the voluntary guidelines came in 2013 when they were made mandatory. Many of you have been there since then, and we have been in a decision-making positions. We have influenced the boards to actually figure out what to do in the social sector, and we asked them, and we've conceptualized programs, have been implementing them as well. So the idea is just to hear it from you. Probably we can just go one by one. Some challenges that you have been facing or have faced in the last 5 years, primarily from say convincing the board point of view. I'm sure all of you will have something special to share around that. How it was difficult.
Ranjan,
sir.
Ranjan, I'll stop you here. If you can give me the first chance, I'd like to hear. I'll hear as much as I can. I'm outside. I'm in my car.
Sure.
And I didn't say, I thought I'll not miss this opportunity to talk to you since you got in touch with me. Can I start and can I, whenever my mother-in-law is not well. So that's why we rushed to Ghaziabad. So I am sitting outside.
You're in the car, yes.
Because I got your message. In fact, I had forgotten that I have to attend because we rushed in the morning. It was an emergency. My driver couldn't fetch up. And when he came, we were already half an hour on the road. So it's an emergency. Can I start and can I share my experiences? If that is what you want. Okay. How do I start? You want how?
So started from Hans Foundation's conceptualization. It was created for some purpose, and because of COVID, something happened, and there was some programs that had to be plugged back, and then again the FCRA rules came in. So that long story cut short, can you just tell us what was the story around Hans Foundation and how it is now? Yes.
Okay. Let me just tell you how Hans Foundation came into being. Basically, let me close because there's a lot of traffic now, my windows.
Yes.
Hans Foundation was an idea which was floated by Shweta Rawat and Manoj Bhargav. Manoj Bhargav, I think everybody knows, he's a billionaire. He's a CEO of the 5-Hour Energy Drink who has pledged 90% of his wealth for charity in India. So it started they had no experience in this. I think Shweta was just 28 or 29 years old when she was the MD of the Hans Foundation. We started with few lakhs. Today we are almost about 200 crore plus, which we are granting to. We are basically a grant-making organization. So with this amendment coming through, we cannot sub-allot. Every operation of ours is shifted to US, and they'll be doing direct funding. We'll do the liaison office work. So from few lakhs, we had taken prior permission for 30 lakhs from the ministry. We have gone up to now 200 crores. For last 2-3 years, we have been doing 200 crore plus. And today we have our own hospitals. We are working in 27 states now. Manipur also we have added. We have started a PHC over there, construction. And we are doing drinking water project. So I'll take once when it was established, we took up 3 areas of work. Education. Tell me whenever you are short of time, you tell me, I'll stop. I'll try and then wind up. Education, health and disability. These were the cross-cutting areas, core areas of our work. For 5 years, we were just finding our feet. We thought we'll work with grassroots level NGOs. So we took them on board. They had never seen this kind of money, and we were not making too much of There were some projects which were good, some were bad. We had our learning, and after I joined in 2014, we started making the vision, and together with Shweta and Manoj, we said, let's formulate our vision, mission, and how we want to go about it. So those were the formative years, and then we built up a team. When I joined, there were only 10 people, and there were overall about 12 with the support staff. Today we have 3 offices.
So can we now come to now? So FCRA norms came in. So a lot of small non-government organizations that you were supporting and sustaining, and there was a nice team that you had built up in here. So now that it has just become a Lysian office here, and the funding will happen from abroad, directly from the funding organizations. So how is the scene now? How are they going to sustain the smaller organizations as well as the team that you have built?
See, they are also struggling now. This whole thing started, I presented a paper in November, way ahead, where I had suggested that you start funding from US for 6 months. In the meantime, we build up THF, we start our HR, finance, HR, fundraising department. We expand THF in the meantime, because without the proper organization on ground, you cannot start, taking up self-implementation program. The whole idea was, because it is also connected to your administrative expenditure. If you want to maintain the same office, then you have to remain within 20%. And 20% is, ours is a heavy administrative expenditure. Not very heavy. We are still in the range of 8%. So we have to manage that also. So I told them that we'll take up all these projects on self-implementation mode. I consulted with the ministry also, and they were also of the same opinion. And in the meantime, they have been doing this equivalency determination test since November. But it's a tough procedure. I don't know how many of you are aware of that, because ours is a FCRA money. So far we have not been able to fund these organizations. And for last 3 months, there has been no funding. And the first funding is going to commence in February. So that's where we stand. But there is an overriding concern that how are we going to maintain our administrative expenditure within 20% limit. So by and by, some of the projects, we have to take it on self-implementation mode. And today we have in the pipeline about 300 crores worth of self-implementation projects in various states. So it will see us through for about 2-3 years, but in the meantime we have to undertake these projects on self-implementation mode. Any questions you can ask me.
That's about it, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, we wanted to understand how this FCRA has been impacting the larger foundations primarily, because it's just not with Hans Foundation, it has happened with a lot of other foundations as well that have been dependent upon.
It's a very tough time, Ranjan. It's a very tough time. People are not getting their salaries. All the projects are held up. We have 128 projects going on right now. We're funding about 128 NGOs today, and they are held up. The New Year has gone by, Diwali has gone by, and there are no salaries, nothing, and we are really, really struggling. It's a very difficult time for every one of us, and the only way is that, and US is US, they have their own rules. So unless they pass the equivalency determination test, US, the money cannot come from US directly. This will start coming in the month of February, like I said, and then things will start easing out. But these are very, very hard times for all our partners.
Quite unfortunate for the communities who have been working along.
But I'll give you a solution also. Since I have to go, I want to finish off. I'll give you a solution. There is a solution saying that as is, where is. In the sense, let's say we are funding number of schools. So we build up our finance department. We say that we are co-jointly running these projects. They give us an undertaking that they are okay with it, and then you can start giving the salaries. You can start paying for the midday meals directly to the vendors, to the teachers, and to the staff, and run it as your own project. This is what I discussed with the ministry. Gradually, we have to come to that mode. And most of the big foundations or the NGOs in the country, they are now going into self-implementation mode, including Tata's now. Though they are not FCRA, They are CSR money. They are 70 to 80% they're going to now fund as their self-implementation programs. And this is the way forward for, like CBM has already converted to self-implementation. They were earlier a liaison office, but now they are doing self-implementation projects. So means going into this mode. Similarly, CARE was already into self-implementation mode, and THF has to go into self-implementation mode partially, and partially it can come from like the agriculture projects where we are funding 10,000 farmers. That we cannot do. That has to, the money has to come to the partner, and he has to disperse that money on day-to-day basis. Such like projects can be funded directly from US, and the remaining can be funded by the Hans Foundation as self-implementation projects. So this is my take on that. Whatever work.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I know you have to rush in. Thank you so much for this feedback. I'll get in touch with you again. Probably we'll do a story around FCRA and how it has impacted organizations and what are the solutions that you've suggested. We'll probably do an article on this. Padma, please take a note on that.
Pandemic, sorry. Pandemic is another story which I'll tell you later. I'm leaving now. Sure, so thank you very much for being patient. So thanks a lot. Bye.
Before we move on to, I meant to ask Brigadier Williams, we'll just come to you again. There was a message from Rajshri Birlaji. Dr. Ram was supposed to join us, but Dr. Ram couldn't join because of personal health reasons. There is an emergency that she has had to attend to. She has sent in a message that probably Padma, can you read it for us, Rajshri ji's message? Padma?
She's on mute. Padma, you're on mute.
Padma, you have to unmute yourself. This happens.
Ranjan, I suggest you just go across to the other room and say,
I am in office. She's at home. It's time for you to read the message. Come in. She's just come joining in. That's how it happens. No, I just updated that Dr.
There are people who are asking for the link because it was not working. I was sending the link.
That happens with the panelists and the attendees link. It's happening with some people in here. Yes.
What happened to Mr. Bonal? He was trying to join.
He had joined as an attendee, and he's getting his COVID test done right now. No, he has to go for a review. He recovered. He had COVID around December last. And then for 20-25 days, he was in isolation. Then he came out and he's going for a test. So we have a message here from Rajshri ji for all the thought leaders who have been felicitated by Coffee for Cause, as well as for Team Coffee for Cause. Padma, can we just read it?
Yeah. Dear sustainability and CSR stakeholders, it gives me great pleasure to address all decision makers contributing to these essential conversations focused at sustainability and corporate social responsibility. Aditya Birla Group is glad to be presenting the 5th edition of Coffee for Cause and ensuring the continuity of these conversations. Coffee for Cause has established itself as an interesting and meaningful platform for conversations, collaborations, and exchange of ideas and experiences for sustainability and CSR professionals, as well as social entrepreneurs and non-government organizations. Such platforms are all the more necessary because we are all walking on a path leading to the larger milestone of conscious progress, which also means taking care of our tomorrows by making our today count in a way that is responsible, sustainable, and visionary. I congratulate Team Cause Because for conceptualizing a forum such as Coffee for Cause, which keeps alive the conversations that give us hope that a sustainable world can be a reality, and also shares their thoughts, ideas, and hopes in these conversations with people everywhere. Talking about the social side of Aditya Birla Group, our vision states to actively contribute to the social and economic development of the communities in which we operate. In doing so, build a better, sustainable way of life for the weaker sections of society and raise the country's Human Development Index. It was in the early 1940s that our founding father, Mr. G.D. Birla, espoused the trusteeship concept of management. The concept entails that the wealth that one generates and holds is to be held in a trust for our multiple stakeholders. With regard to CSR, this means investing a good part of our profits beyond business for the larger good of society. Mr. Aditya Birla weaved in the concept of sustainable livelihood with the business, which transcended checkbook philanthropy. And now our chairman, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, has institutionalized the concept of triple bottom line accountability, represented by economic success. Thus, the vision and the efforts of the group with regard to sustainable development of the people with whom we coexist and co-work have only evolved. Today, seeing such innovative information platforms like Cause4Because, which have become a medium for the social side of businesses in India, I become more hopeful that the vision and the business concepts adopted by our group will reach more and more business entities across India, and that the significance of business responsibility in nation building will be understood for what it truly is and be a beacon for development. I hope the conversations that begin here will be carried on to their logical and good end. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Padma. It was interesting. This is what we have also observed from last 5-10 years. It's been 11 years now that Cause4Because has been there, and we've been talking and exchanging notes with almost all corporate houses. The businesses which are Indian businesses, primarily held by the generations, they have been more on a philanthropic side, and then the philanthropy turned into CSR, and they have been conceptualizing more, focused social programs as compared to the corporates or the foreign companies that came in. Because you'll be surprised to know that in 5-6 years, in the last 2-3 years, we've been trying to reach out to some technology companies. We've been exchanging notes with world's biggest conglomerates, asking them to connect us to their corporate social responsibility leads. I wouldn't take names, but some of the companies have just appointed somebody in the last 1 or 2 years as their CSR leads, and they're planning conceptualizing programs and are trying to be in sync with the law which is in there. PKT Williams, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think, yes, it has been like primarily the old conglomerates, old business houses, Indian business houses that have been more focused on sustainability and CSR as compared to the newer brands that are coming up, or say the newer organizations, foreign companies or foreign brands? And I'll want the same take from Mohini and then move on to Rishi. Sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to be together and see familiar faces and interact. Let's talk about something which I've been engaged since the time I left the army. You know, you started the conversation initially about when in 2008 and 9, when the first the NVGs came out, and those conversations before that, CSR rules were there. Before that, there were rules for the PSUs. So we were part of this kind of a systematic engagement with corporations, with NGOs, with think tanks, and this finally came out of the document as the National Voluntary Guideline, which then transformed into the Companies Act 2013 and thereafter. So I'll start with 2013 on, because prior to that, there were only some big houses which had a sustainable, which is after 2013 that many a corporation thereafter got engaged. I know even I'm getting cut. I'm not sure why, but I hope you can hear me. Are you?
We can hear you.
Am I audible?
You're audible enough, but it just starts in between. That's fine. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that, because there is some problems in this part of the NCR.
Should we mute ourselves?
There is issue. Yeah. So as I was saying, there has been a transformation after the 2013 Act came into being from 14 onwards. And that was when the corporates started having their own departments of corporate social responsibility and sustainability. Initially, it was somebody else looking after it. It was Corpcom, or it was the HR, or it was another department of environment looking after the other areas. Not so with us. It's CSR, when I'm now 4 years ago. We started work from corporate social responsibility much before the Act came into being, one. Two is much before the fact that we started making profits, because it was the largest integrated stainless steel plant in Jajpur. Obviously, we were much below the red line. There was an corporate social responsibility. So it was not because of the mandated 2% which came into being after the CSR Act came into effect. But much before that and thereafter also, our percentages obviously cannot be as far as the profits are concerned, because there were no profits, yet a substantial amount was being invested into communities. And communities around our plant locations, not the familiarity which Mohini, others, corporate leaders have been working pan-India or across different areas of engagement. Our focus has to be around a plant location, being manufacturing, extractive, etc. So we started off with that, and we engaged with a number of projects. Then it was not the question, as I always challenge, in terms of numbers. I don't like numbers game. I really like quality vis-a-vis quantity. And I think it's a quality which has really had an impact, and I'm glad Rishi is here. He will also stand by this project on agriculture extension. The way that, this partner of ours, of the Gram Unnati Foundation, has been able to scale up the project from Orissa to Haryana to Rajasthan to Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, it's really scaled up. So from a small number of farmers that we talked of initially at Jajpur, today we are targeting over 2 lakh farmers, and the benchmark is 5 lakh farmers in the next maybe 3 years' time, by 2022. So I'm just saying that, it's something which we've been able to actually achieve because we started small and we continue to remain small. But what is important is that whether it's education, whether it is health, whether it's to do with entrepreneurship development linked to women empowerment, or we're talking about infrastructure development or business and human rights or whatever, has been very, very focused. And agriculture is our flagship project that we've taken on and is doing brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, bringing technology inside this particular domain, and it's an exciting journey. So I think it's important over the last 5 years to carry on with whatever we've been doing in a very sustainable and a very focused manner. Despite the pandemic, some of our friends have said money is gone because a lot of money has been diverted to PM CARES. Thank you. A lot of money has been diverted to PM CARES fund. No.
We've lost you again.
Suddenly, when we were told, I said, no projects on the Orissa. It was amazing how they continued. Our funding almost not already stopped, but it was reduced from 100 to 50 or 50 to 25. It carried on, it carries on even to date. Only there was a change in our foci for pandemic, and that period, there were many projects that we had to undertake. And I'm glad we did, because it is the community which is excited. We're just carrying on with the work, and we in our little small ways are contributing towards mitigating this problem which we face today. I'll pause here. Let me know, Ranjan, if you want me to say
anything more. Yes, that's understood. Now, you mentioned agriculture project with UPL. Rishi, we will want to pitch in, and we'll want to hear it again from the beginning, from very beginning. I remember we have interacted in 2013-14 as well, when the law was being amended and made. And then I remember having a talk with you around having to reach out to the board to get them convinced about certain CSR programs, social programs. And then you managed to do that, and now we have moved on. And I remember there was a most promising project as well from last year on environment conservation. So a bit about that, but from the beginning, and how it has been challenging for you to have CSR getting approved, implemented, and then finding partners. This whole journey, please.
Good evening to all of you. It's always wonderful to listen to Brigadier Sir, Rajiv Sir, Mohini ma'am. So I'll just add few things. Ranjan, with your kind permission, I really want to flag off something else rather than
Sure.
I'm sure we all know. I know almost everything that Max Foundation is doing and what Rajiv sir is doing. So I really want to flag off something else that's there in my mind. One is what is the performance of Indian company versus the multinationals in the CSR space, and how we are doing things and what is the impact that we have created. Funds can vary with the company size and with the management's commitment. I think that can vary, but I think the intent and the quality of work, what Rajiv sir also said, how has that really created an impact? I think that's something we really need to look at. One. Two, I think whenever I reflect back on the 5-6 years journey, and this is what I was trying to reflect when I saw your email, I think as an organization and as an individual, I have really worked very hard in the last 5 years, 5-6 years to create an impact in the sections of society that I'm working with. But have I created any impact from a policy per se? As a group, have we been able to do that? Any success? Or else we have just created different forums to tell about the success stories that in small pockets we have created. That's the second I really wanted to flag off.
Mm-hmm.
The third is we all know and understand and appreciate that CSR is not something where we are competing with each other. Rather, it's a complementary kind of an initiative where we can really make 1 + 1 11. But I really don't see a single case study where we have partnered and we have created that kind of an impact. So these are the three questions that I'm really struggling with, because if you just look at the numbers per se, it says we have invested approximately 1 lakh crore in CSR space since the time Act came in. But have we created that kind of an impact? What are the learnings for us? What is the way forward for us? And how have we as a group of these people who are involved in this space for the last 15-20 years contributed towards the policy advocacy? So these are some questions I'm struggling, and maybe I'll request Rajiv sir, Mohini ma'am, and Priyanka ji, if you can just...
I'll pitch in here. I'll have to start it from the beginning. That's what I wanted the conversation to start on this note. But what happens is you're mostly into like texting, messaging, getting people on board. There are a lot of people who confirm will be joining and they do not. So the idea of starting this conversation was on this note. 11 years, we have interacted with almost everybody in this domain. Whoever has been making CSR decisions, reached out to them, asked them tough questions, filed in RTIs. If you remember, there even in this issue, of course, because there is a story based on an RTI on vehicle scrapping policy, what is taking so much time, why isn't it coming? When the CSR guidelines were coming in, I have exchanges, WhatsApp text messages with the Secretary Corporate Affairs, IIC secretaries. Mr. Chatterjee has been part of a lot of conversations with us. So the idea has always been like 25 to 30,000 crore was supposed to come into CSR. Will it make an impact? Has it made an impact? Is there a case study? We have reached out to all of you asking for one model project that you think has been implemented. What has been the cost of it? How you've spent on people, and how has it become a self-sustaining model? And can it be replicated by other corporations also? When we started doing evaluations about 4 or 5 years ago, I think 5 years ago, Padma, we did the first evaluation study of Hero MotoCorp's few projects, right? So interestingly, I used to be a critic. Corporate social responsibility has been made mandatory. People will start using it as additional money that has come in for branding and public relations, because I have worked in that domain as well. So I used to think, we can easily create social stories around projects and we can propagate it and use it as a marketing or a public relations tool. It started like that. The largest corporations in the country, which has about, if we say add up everybody's CSR funds who's sitting in this panel and who's been at Coffee for Cause earlier as well, it doesn't match up to one company's CSR fund, which is annual CSR fund. I don't mind naming, but yes, this is how it is. So there is a corporation which has to spend 700 crore rupees into CSR. I have written to them, we have reached out to them, we have told them there are several programs that can be implemented by the several organizations and can make a large impact on this. But where it has gone, we all know there have been universities that have been made which do not exist, but they are on paper. They are centers of excellence. There have been hospitals which are 100% commercial. A community guy or a smaller, poor, marginalized person cannot get a bed in that hospital because the first bed that costs is $4,500. So that's where the CSR money from the large one corporation has gone, and there have been similar stories that we know about from other corporations as well. So that hasn't happened. But on the other side, so why I'm not as much as a critic of corporate social responsibility now how I used to be earlier after we started doing the evaluations. We went to Gujarat, the case study that I want to talk about. So you said there are no case studies. We were asked to do a need assessment of a particular village. We are running short of time, because we have to start at 4:15 for another session, but we'll delay it anyway, it doesn't matter. Because this one is important and they'll join in here as well in this panel. So we went to Gujarat. You would know about Gujarat. There is a town called Halol. Halol ke paas there is a small village wherein Hero MotoCorp started doing, asked us for a need assessment, and we reached out there. There were people, I had not seen that kind of poverty earlier. I had not seen that kind of starvation earlier. So we wrote down this community needs education interventions. There are no schools. There are no healthcare essentials that are needed in there. 3 years down the line, we were again asked to go down to the same community in the same area and see if any impact has happened and do an impact evaluation of that project. So our need assessment had said almost everything is needed for that community. The government hasn't done anything in there. That was in fact one of the, what do they call it? What districts? The needed districts, which are like downtrodden districts, the worst districts. So that was one of them. Panchmahal district, that is in the Gujarat.
Aspirational districts.
Sorry? He mentioned the district. I couldn't hear that again. Yes.
I said aspirational districts.
Aspirational districts. So yeah, that was one of the aspirational districts. Panchmahal is in fact one of the aspirational districts. Yes. So after 3 years, when we went down for an impact evaluation, the women who were not coming out of the houses, who used to wear this gungat and wouldn't even talk to men there, they had created self-help groups and they were talking about stories of asking their husbands to go and sell the stuff that they have been making. I'm cutting this short because there are a lot of interesting stories. I sat with about 30 odd women from the same community who were not coming out to talk. They had created their self-help groups. So the community had taken, women had come out and started working. All the government schools in that vicinity were upgraded. The infrastructure had been given, the furniture had been given, everything, the toilets had been made. They all had started getting the enrollment. So this is a...
Can I intervene here? I was
Sure.
not talking about this case. I'm sure every one of us have got.
So this is just one case study. There's so many stories around this.
No.
Healthcare when goes.
Yes, Ranjan, I'm not talking about that. I guess we all have created that kind of a story.
Yes.
That's for sure. I was talking about a partnership story where 1 + 1 can become 11. I'm not talking about the individual effort. I'm sure everyone has done that, and I don't have a doubt about that. I was flagging off a different question. I was
corporate partnership.
Some kind of a partnership where we have created an impact which is much more than what I could have done individually. That's something that is not visible. I was talking about that one. Second, as a group, as a CSR heads of the country, or maybe we are into different forums. What is a policy advocacy that we have done till now? Or we have just received a circular from MCA and followed that, which we are doing because we're supposed to do. But what is the role that, because I come from an NGO background, and where I've done extensive policy advocacy also at some point of time, where we try to influence at least something. In self-help group movement, I was involved.
I got it, Rishi. You know what? I'll ask Mohini to pitch in here, because I remember when the rules were being formed and preventive healthcare was not being included in there, how you led a panel along with a lot of people, reached out to the ministry and asked them to include that in there, and they did it, right? So that kind of interventions, yes, they don't happen often. How was your experience at that point in time? It was about 6 years ago that you did that. You're mute.
Sorry, yes. Ranjan, I remember this very, very specifically. So I just want to go back very briefly. I joined the Max Group in November 2007, straight after my husband's retirement, because the Max Group wanted to start a foundation actually, although they had a trust deed and all, but somehow it had not taken off. So basically we started from the grassroots, okay, what will we do? I remember 2 months of discussions with the chairman, and he would keep saying, first Moini, what will you not do? Then come to what will you do? So anyway, now having the background, the support of Max Healthcare, it was decided to go in for health. That naturally we have the support, and very few organizations go in for health because there's not much they can do. But the fact that we had the Max Healthcare with us, behind us, there was a lot we could do. So we went into this. And obviously preventive health, when we spoke about it, most of it was awareness. But I remember you're talking about a board problem. I got this idea that I want to do immunization after I saw a small cutting in the small news thing in the Hindustan Times to say that more than 60% of children in India are not immunized. So I just thought, and when I asked the chairman, he kind of looked, as if, what is she talking about? He said, well, I said, look, I want to talk to the health minister. He says, I suggest you start with the health secretary. I said, okay. Now, I just wasn't able to get an appointment for 3 months. Abhi wo bahar hain, abhi abroad hain, karte. I thought we'll do it. Now, this is something which needed a lot of work and lot of planning. So, each and every, because this, you cannot go wrong. That is one thing in health, and especially like, immunization. There's no way you can go wrong even once. So having planned the whole thing, I kept on asking for approval. And it was 6 months. And then finally there was a management committee meeting, and then the chairman said, okay, we'll put it to the committee. And there again, everybody started, acha ye karo, ek pilot karo. And I was dying to say that these are not things you do a pilot on. You don't just go and give one round and say, okay, we'll see. Anyway, in my mind, I was clear. So it was a real problem getting it done. However, we got it done. We were probably the first really, independent, should I say, private organization doing immunization pan-India. Few NGOs were doing it with a few people, but it was okay. Now, it was 2008 we started. It was doing well, and it was long gone into its.
In 2013, all of a sudden, it became non-CSR activity.
When 2013 came, so we had been doing our CSR. So when we saw these rules, and there was no talk of preventive healthcare, and we said, look, we do all preventive healthcare. Actually, every NGO can only do preventive, even otherwise, because who does curative? I could do curative because I could send the people to the Max Hospital for their surgeries, for their treatments. Otherwise, how does an NGO actually do curative? Because healthcare, nobody had actually given it a thought. But I have to say, and we tried everything, and I tried, I don't know what others did, but I don't mind admitting it here. I tried a personal contact, and I almost got into serious trouble because I happened to mention it to our legal head, and who said, what, and how can you, and all. Anyway, by then I had got it done. But, I threw a personal this thing. I said, this is just not, you guys aren't thinking. Agar healthcare karna hai, to preventive hi hoga. Very few people can do something. So yes, it was tough, but we were just lucky to get it in. And now that you mention it, maybe I'm sure there were lots of other people who are trying for it also.
Yeah, there were amendments around consumer protection law, around education. So interestingly, so if we look at the CSR reports that come out from KPMG, PwC, or those big fours, they come out with the CSR report, this much money has been spent into education. But if you look at how education is defined in the law, so anything that you're doing around awareness activities is education. Anything that you are doing around consumer protection or consumer awareness is education. So anything that you're doing around hoardings, putting them as messages, drive carefully, courtesy XYZ, that is education. So all the programs that were not qualifying to be fit in anywhere because the promotional activities were happening, a lot of PR activities were happening.
You're right.
We have gone into education.
We are all guilty of that because, to be honest, there is no marketing funds as far as CSR is concerned. And when you ask to sponsor some other things, so all those awareness things like even smoking or whatever becomes, but although made our smoking, anti-smoking, that was part of preventive healthcare. We didn't make it education. But talking about our thing was, so 2018, I'm forgetting the years, 18. So we did our, was it 19? We did our healthcare, and now Max India Foundation is into MIF 2.0, which is a completely different, it's based on education, it's more, now we have gone the other way around. You were talking earlier about people who are donors were becoming operational. We were totally operational on the ground, you know. We were totally operational getting the cataract surgeries, others, but we have now gone into the donor mode completely for education, and now we are doing pure education, primary and otherwise, by supporting organizations, supporting teachers who are helping government schools, extra curriculum or other after school coaching, and not just general awareness, but education per se. And here I wanted to say, Rishi, that I think we are now looking at that ek aur ek yara. To be honest, you know, now we are getting that feeling that we, because we are monitoring carefully, we are actually, we have less number of people, but you know, the kind of work they are doing on the ground with education, with the impact of our money, I'm almost seeing that ek aur ek yara, I'm happy to say. And we can talk about
Rishi, of course, it takes time. I'm sorry, I'm intervening in here. Our panelists for the second session is also joining in. They were, of course, thought leaders as well. They were supposed to be in the thought leaders meet, but that's how it happens. We have Anirban Ghosh, who is Chief Sustainability Officer at Mahindra Group, here joining us. Mr. Vijay Sethi, he is CIO, CHRO, and Head CSR Corporate Social Responsibility at Hero MotoCorp. They'll be our panelists for the next session that's focused at environment sustainability, and they both are also our thought leaders from previous edition of Coffee for Cause. From here, like the conversation that is going around now is primarily focused at 5 years of corporate social responsibility. How some of our participants pointed out, it has not been able to make one-on-one 11 because everybody has been working in seclusion, trying to make their impact stories, but they have not partnered. 5 years ago, you were not talking like this. We were talking about our stories. There was a law. there was a law that wanted us to do certain things, and a lot of people did a lot of things, not many things in rush. Now we are talking. Mohini said, yes, this is the time we have to do this. Yes, probably we'll get Max again on board. If you remember, we met at Silver Circle Meet. There were 7 or 8 corporations, and they all said, yes, we have to collaborate and do and make a larger impact. But we go back home. We created a concept, we created a program, we reached out to them, and the first question was whose logo will be on the top and whose will be at the bottom. Those questions have gone. So people are not asking those questions now. They want to see an impact. We have seen our reports. We have seen the CSR report card of 2005-2006. We know 2015 and 16, and we know what could have been done has not been done. They were 25,000 crore total. If you make a cumulative of 5 years, what has been spent, let's keep the big B's out, or say big ones out, who created hospitals in this. There was a lot of money that had to be used, utilized, implemented, and make an impact. Mr. Sethi, we have done several evaluations for Hero MotoCorp in the past year, and now he has been asking Ranjan, what is the big project that we can invest in? Let's get corporations on board, let's get bigger organizations on board, and try to make a larger impact. I'm sure Brigadier Williams will also have a take on this. Earlier we were not talking like this, but yes, when we were at Silver Circle Meet, you had also mentioned, yes, there has to be partnerships among corporations, then we can mend laws as well. If Mohini could go 5 years ago and just get a law amended and say preventive healthcare has to be part of it.
I understand, Ranjan, and that's the reason I'm flagging off, because earlier, maybe whenever I've even met Brigadier Williams, I think our discussions have been around impact that we are creating, the work we are doing. But I think after 6 years, it's a high time that we really look at that kind of a zone where we really create a larger impact. And I know I can talk to this certain group of people who can understand and appreciate what I'm talking about. See, there's no fun in me doing something related to preventive health if I know there's a big organization and bunch of people who have already
in this domain.
So I'm now thinking on that zone and that particular area where we can really create a much larger impact. And as I said in the beginning, if you clearly see there's a group of organization, you can visualize also what India-based companies are doing and how they are doing. So I'm coming from a typical that thought process where we can create a larger impact.
Sir.
I wonder what prevents private partnership.
I just want to make a very quick remark on what Mr. Ghosh mentioned. It's really a difficult question to respond to. I think the only reason is egos.
I was about to say,
If we forget our egos, and if we really take this forward, no, honestly, I've tried this. There are 13 large corporations in Jajpur and Orissa. There are huge projects which need to be done over there. We have tried to initiate the steps in getting at least 3 or 4 corporates to talk the same language. Why are we running our medical program just in this pocket? There is duplicity going on with the farmers or with any other projects. No, I think it's a great idea. And the idea remains that great just about that. So Anirban, actually, that is the challenge that I have faced. And I said, good. As long as the communities are benefiting, let's carry on. But it is like Kalinga Nagar is not a big area. But it's got steel plants, it's got the power plants in a small segment of 40 square miles or square kilometers. But yet, you find Tatas, Jindals, Steel and works are all getting together. They get together when the government talks about it. When you have this DPMC meetings, they are together. But it's sad how sometimes we cannot think together, work together. Sorry.
I think, no,
Yep, Mohaniji.
very correct. I was about to say the same thing. I think it's a question of, who takes the leadership, because everyone thinks their own idea with its own nuances. Obviously, are going to do the same thing. We could combine, but each of the entities feels that they know better or they can do it better. So I think basically it's the whole thing is that who's going to lead it? And do you
we have tried that. Even the leading part, I took initiative, got people to actually sign a memorandum paper, not like a memorandum, just that Ranjan, you bring in this model project and we'll do that. Where we got stuck. So yes, going back to Brigadier Williams, it's the egos. The papers got stuck talking about whose logo goes where, who takes how much appreciation, or who takes how much credit of that particular program if it makes an impact, and it never moved forward. And then second question that people ask people like me is, what is in for you?
I think we had adopted a village cluster. So first thing that each person there says, what am I getting? The person means not the corporate but the villagers. So there's collective good is not a concept in India. Sabko hai ki panchayat se leke sabse, that what will go in my pocket. Besides that, one way where we did collaborate with a few others was in this village adoption. Like here, we had water filters from some other organization. We in fact welcomed people. Why don't you come and do this and you do this? So of course it was under our umbrella in the sense that we were doing the whole thing, but still there are pockets. You're right. We should be able to speak like at least, ठीक है, health camps हम कर रहे हैं, health हम कर रहे हैं. So why doesn't someone look at the schools? We got libraries done, we did other, and for this every time I had got into a roadblock with the board because they said, why are you doing library? You're supposed to only do health. Then I had to keep saying no, but we've adopted the whole thing, so we had to make all kinds of things because they don't look at practicality, they look at it in the theoretical aspect. But true, if we could get one organization to look, the education people looking at that, the health people looking at health, in say like Rajiv says, in one big organization, if each corporate did one thing for everybody, what you can do best, I think that's great.
I will take last take of Mr. Sethi on this. Corporations coming together and being able to make that, like Mr. Ghosh rightly pointed out, and then we'll hear on the same subject from Mr. Gulati as well. Is there a possibility, I'm very simplifying it, can Jindals and Heroes and Toyotas and Mahindras and Maxes of the world come together and conceptualize one good social story? Mr. Sethi on this and then Mr. Gulati, and then we'll move on to another session which is for Mr. Brigadier Williams as well on this one. So we'll take from Mr. Sethi, move on to Mr. Gulati and Brigadier Williams, and then we'll start on the second session. Sir, please.
Thanks, Ranjan. Good afternoon, everyone. See, how I see is that when 5-6 years back, formally the CSR in the organizations came up after the law, people wanted to first set up their own systems, establish that, yes, I also do CSR. So that's where all the organizations did things individually. However, over the last 3-4 years, when things have settled down, people have started seeing the benefits of the entire thing. They've also known as to what is happening in the community. And they have also realized they can't boil the entire ocean themselves. They don't have either the capabilities or the money to do everything, or even the mandate to do everything. So our realization has come up now that it's not just about individualism, but about collaboration. So if I go to a village and I can do something related to, say, education, and if Mohini's team can do something related to health, the beneficiaries I know, so why can't we really collaborate? So as I personally see, going forward, we'll see huge amount of collaboration on the CSR front. Also, what pandemic has really taught us over the last 8 to 10 months is that collaboration is the only way forward. You cannot compete on a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to social. I'm not competing with anyone. There's nothing that my social returns have to be better than somebody else's social returns. No, at the end, it's the beneficiary that has to be kept in mind. So as I personally see, you will see huge amount of collaboration among our nations. You have said whether Heroes, Jindals or others cannot. I'm sure we can. Why not? At least I don't see any issue with all this. And I personally see that if we meet at the same time next year, we will actually be coming up and discussing as to what more can be done on collaboration rather than why not collaboration or why collaboration.
Well said. Well said.
Mr. Williams on this.
I mean, I agree with what you are saying, Mr. Sethi. There is no doubt. I mean, there has to be a collaboration. The SDG 17 talks about that. That's the most important aspect. But it's a talk today, which Anirban Ghosh also mentioned, is collaboration amongst corporations. It's the challenge.
Yeah, the ego comes in.
I don't know why we can't.
It was rightly pointed out. I agree.
That is the challenge. Because funds, huge funds, are available between corporates if they can really chip in. And I'm not talking about what Madam Mohini had mentioned, that, it is, the question is if one area is only healthcare, then somebody else can take on the education piece and somebody else can take on women empowerment and whatever. No. In a particular geography, don't duplicate the effort.
Correct.
Collaborate.
Correct.
That is what is important and to be understood.
Yes.
If you're doing health, even I'm doing health, but I will not take on these villages, I will take on these villages, or I can take on eradication of ABC, let's take, whatever. And you take on eradication of XYZ. So that sort of collaboration is also very, very critical and important. But big corporates don't look at it that way. It's very unfortunate. We must keep trying. Things are changing, and pandemic has definitely shown us the way forward of being together and seeing what is good for the larger segment of society. I'll exit. Thank you very much, Ranjan. Thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Brigadier Williams. Yes. Mr. Gulati, your take on this, and then I think Rishi had to add something on this one. Then we'll just move on to another session.
Thank you. Really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Good afternoon to all. To start off, I tend to agree that the fact that there is no reason why collaboration should not be happening, and I think the past year or so have shown that that can happen. It can be fruitful. The countermeasures to COVID, which required huge interventions by many corporates, did see a lot of collaboration taking place. I'd just like to cite one example from the automotive space where, which is a very unique case study, which shows that collaboration can also happen for a cause that is common to all and critical to society. For example, on the air quality issue in the NCR region, we all aware that, burning of the rice husks and paddy is really one of the major causes, and it's a perennial thing. It happens again and again. So automotive, the various companies who are part of SIAM, the Automotive Industry Association, actually all came together it was also done under the umbrella of CII, and everybody contributed together to try to look at the root cause and try to go to actually villages, adopt a few villages and try to do this intervention in terms of, giving them not a message, but also giving them a possibility of moving away from burning the parali. So this was an intervention which was of a scale that none of us could have done alone. It really required everybody to come on board. It is something that appealed to everybody, and it did happen. It did happen, and it had very good, tremendous results. So there are opportunities definitely there, and I think it just needs the right catalyst to bring people together and synergies to be explored. And once that happens, I think it's really something that's quite natural, and I don't see why it should not be taking place.
Interesting. Nishi, you had a take on this, no? Saying something.
No, I think I really wanted to plant this idea. I guess the kind of a reflection, I'm sure I've done that. But my observation from a perspective that not only the steel cluster, but you see any cluster. I was doing a facilitation for Hazira area, 12 big industries of the country, and they are working for 4 villages. You talk about Baddi, you talk about Samba, you talk about any cluster that you can think of. That's the reality. It's much more than ego. We really need to drill it down. I think it's a little easy to just park it under ego and say, but I think it's a little more than that. And I think it's not that easy also to figure it out. But I think we really need to start discussion around that. How can we create? I'm not saying every industry has to partner. I think everyone has their own mandate and their own focus area. But wherever it's possible, I think in the interest of community and the interest of area, we should explore that. I think we'll be able to really create an impact which is much bigger than what we can do individually. So that's something.
Great. Thank you. Yes, Mohini. Yes, you have one minute. Yes.
One short thing. At least in my experience, I've seen that a lot of big companies really don't have specific CSR heads. Even now, although in the beginning there were all of them, a lot of them are still marketing professionals who are looking after CSR, or maybe just HR professionals, but not standalone CSR. Now, the marketing professionals will always only be looking at the marketing value. I know it, I've seen it. Number one is marketing, and the real CSR comes later. In such cases, obviously, they are looking for what can be shown. So, unko asli kaam se matlab nahi hai. They will not collaborate. They want to say Coca-Cola or dash has done this. And they can convince their board and their CEO. So I think we need to have a more trustworthy sort of an organization, whereas we are able to meet each other and look at the real. Sorry, Anirban, aap kuch kehna?
Nahin, Mohini ji, there is another disaster function. It is called administration.
Yes.
When an administration head is handling CSR, then he's thinking, अच्छा तो मैं किसके लिए project कर सकता हूँ जिससे मुझे फायदा होगा?
हाँ. Yeah. And they're looking at their own, because more and more when you leave it to these administration, exactly, they only look at it from the company's perspective, business part of the perspective. CSR benefits will go to the company. I know I have spent 12 years trying to tell them that. It goes to the company. They get everything, but they want कि वो business में हमको क्या फायदा मिलेगा CSR से.
So, in this ecosystem, I see most people getting pleasure from the fact that they are doing something, and not from the fact that somebody else's problem got solved.
Yes.
So it's a way of thinking. I mean, if you start looking at it from the perspective of, okay, here is an area, here are some people, here are some issues they face over a period of 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, let's try and alleviate these problems as much as we can. If you start looking at it that way, then you will quickly realize that, oops, this is beyond me. I need other people to come in, or I need more money. Where will the money come from? So it has to come from somebody else. And so then maybe collaborations and things. And that can only come from people who think that way.
Sincerity, what you said is a very important point. It's not just मैंने कर दिया, tick the box. It is वो काम हुआ है कि नहीं, impact हुआ है कि नहीं.
Yes,
So-
Mohini, we'll have to just cut it short here, and we'll move on to this next session. What you can do is both of you stay. Mohini, Rishi, we are still there. There is a link for attendees.
I have to leave, but
Oh.
in case
There is a link of attendees. You can continue to listen to this conversation. You'll be part of it. Rishi, you too. Thank you so much for having this, to raising those flags. It took another track, and yes, from next year onwards, or probably we'll soon be meeting within this year. Again, at this kind of platform, we will talk about partnerships, we'll talk about collaborations, and we might have stories of partnerships and collaborations to come.
Thank you. Nice meeting
Thank you so much, Mohini.
Thank you so
Rishi.
much.
for inviting me. Thank you. And anyone who has extra CSR funds, please. I'm ready. Vijay, Anirban, I'm ready today, and Vikram. Collaborate totally on the education.
Mohini, if I was still managing CSR money, we would have done a partnership right now.
Okay.
He's
Chalo.
managing sustainability.
Yeah, we are all exes actually. We're all-
Anirban is now managing the entire sustainability at Mahindra Group. So all companies.
So you can affect it. Maybe abhi trustee ban gaya. I'm no longer CEO. With you also.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, Mohini. Bye.
Thank you.